In this episode, we'll focus on the assistant, one of the most useful nodes in Spaces. It can help you start from zero or step in later to add context, combine ideas, and turn rough input into something more structured. What makes it so powerful is that you can speak to it in natural language, and it transforms that into usable input for the workflow. Let's add it to the canvas. As you already know, there is more than one way to insert a node. In this case, we'll select Assistant directly from the quick options visible on the canvas. Once it appears, the first thing you can read is its own description. It tells you that the Assistant is your creative sidekick, powered by a large language model, and that you can type a prompt PT or even use images for context. It also tells you something important about how it behaves. It understands what you mean, builds on your ideas, and helps you move faster. That is exactly the role it plays here. You do not need to begin with a perfectly written production prompt. You begin with your idea. The assistant helps shape it into something stronger. Before we write anything, let's take a closer look at how this node is built. At the bottom left, you'll see the list of models it can use. We're not comparing models here. The important thing is simply to recognize that you can choose the one you want before running the node. Now let's look at its ports. On the left side, the assistant includes several inputs: audio, video, text, and media. That already tells you something important. This is not a node limited to typed instructions. You can also feed it references, existing text, or other context from your project, which helps it respond with more precision. That is why the assistant is not only a starting point. It can also play an important role anywhere in your workflow where you want to combine inputs and turn them into something new. On the right side, you'll find its output port. In this case, the output is text, ready to feed another compatible node. You may also notice that some parts of the node become visible only when you hover over it. The same happens with the ports when they are not being used. At the top, you'll see a row of controls. From here, you can run the node, open quick connections, edit the prompts in more detail, duplicate it, delete it, or access additional options. If this node were already connected to others, running it from here would also let you control how execution continues through the rest of the flow. And if you open quick connections, you can immediately attach other compatible nodes like image generator, video generator, image upscaler, or another assistant. We are not going to stop on every control in detail right now, but it is useful to recognize that they are there and understand what kind of actions they give you. Now let's move to the main writing area of the node. At the top, you'll see two tabs, Prompt and Result. Prompt is where you write in your own words. Result is where the assistant returns the refined version of that idea. So this node does not replace your thinking. It helps develop it. For our example, we'll describe a calm coastal scene. A guy riding a bicycle through a quiet neighborhood near the sea, carrying a surfboard with warm late afternoon light, soft pastel tones, and the feeling of a natural, carefully composed photograph. The goal here is not to write like a prompt engineer. What matters is clearly expressing the image you have in mind. Once we run the assistant, the refined version appears in the Result tab. That means you can always move back and forth between your original input in prompt and the polished version in Result. This makes it easy to compare both, adjust what you wrote, give new instructions, and continue refining the idea without losing your starting point. So instead of working only with the rough text you typed, you now have a stronger and more structured prompt to build from. Now let's use that result inside a simple workflow. We'll right-click on the canvas to add an image generator and then connect the assistant's text output to the image generator's text input. We could also do this quickly from the assistant using quick connections, but here we'll add the next node manually so the structure is easier to follow. Inside the image generator, we choose the number of images, the model, the aspect ratio, and the quality, and then we run it. Now we have our first image created from a prompt that began as a simple natural language description. And this is where the assistant becomes especially valuable. You did not need to begin with a perfectly optimized prompt. You only had to describe what you wanted, and the assistant helped turn that into a much stronger input for the next step. If you want to change the result, you simply go back to your original writing, adjust what you want to see, and run the assistant again. Because the nodes are connected, That updated result can continue through the rest of the workflow. So far, we've been using the default export option, which is export as text. This creates a single optimized text output, ready to feed another compatible node, just like we did with the image generator. But the assistant also offers a second option, export as list. When you choose this, the behavior changes in an important way. Instead of producing one refined prompt, the assistant generates multiple prompt variations and creates a list node automatically. That means you now have several different outputs that you can review, edit, or remove before moving forward. And if that list is connected to an image generator, the next node will execute once for each item in the list. So instead of creating a single image, you can generate many variations from one instruction. This is one of the reasons the assistant is so powerful. Export as text gives you one output and one downstream execution. Export as list gives you multiple outputs, which means multiple downstream executions. That is why it's such a strong starting point, and why it remains useful later on as your workflows become more complete. For now, this is enough to understand what makes the assistant so useful in Spaces. It helps turn ideas into structured results and decide how those results continue through a workflow. We'll keep building from here in the coming episodes. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.